Officers Committee meeting today, 4/27/2023. David Israel.
Present.
Present. Dominic Garnagia.
Here.
Stuart Richland.
Here.
Me, I'm here. David Boaz.
Here.
Joanne Robinson.
Here.
Donald Fluster.
Here.
Ed is here, but he's not present. So put him out. And Ruth, are you here?
No.
All right. First thing on the agenda, did everybody look over the minutes from last month's meeting? Any corrections or adjustments to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, could I have a motion to accept the minutes as
Accept.
Stuart Richland made a motion, seconded by David Boaz? Anybody against? All in favor?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right. I'm going to skip to the CAM report.
Surprise.
That's you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I just got back from vacation, so I'm kind of catching my feet again. Nothing really significant to report, but I do want to fill you in on two particular persons. One is Bruce Hicks, who in February tore off our gate arm and did some other ugly stuff. He appeared in court today, and he was given an opportunity to a following plea. He will need to plead guilty to a felony with adjudication that withheld for three years, which is the period of his probation. He will reimburse Yuko $1,192 for the damage he caused. He'll have 60 hours community service. He has to write a letter of apology to the guard that he insulted. A racial sensitivity training course, and an anger management course. And I've agreed to, as the representative of Yuko, I agreed to this. So he got that today at his hearing. Next month, it'll become final. So that's the end of Hicks. Yes, sir.
This is a felony because of the dollar amount or the hate crime statute?
No, nothing with the hate crime. It didn't rise to the level.
Okay.
It's simply because it's over $1,000 in damage.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. The second person I just want to tell you about is Charles Hollings, who reappeared off the map last week, right before I left for vacation. This fellow was dealing heroin, crack, and fentanyl out of a Northampton R unit. He was arrested several times. He did about 125 days in jail and pleaded guilty to a felony possession of heroin. One of his conditions for his probation was he was to stay out of Century Village, period. One of our unit owners spotted him and called me. I got it to Monaf. Monaf was on it like white on rice. Less than 30 hours later, this fellow was back in jail. And hopefully he'll do a prison term, which will keep him out of our hair for a while. So that's a story on Hollings. I think the police really did a good job here. They jumped right on it.
Great.
Sent undercover cops in, and there he was. So that's all I have for now, guys. I'm happy to answer any questions or anything else. That's it.
Thank you, Donald.
You're welcome.
Dominic, I know you're only back today, but anything for us?
No, nothing of value.
Did you have a good time?
Yes.
Good.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
valuable.
Hold on one thing.
Sure.
Are you all aware, Donald, is everyone aware that we were served on this Chicanian suit?
No, but I did upload it to Z Drive. Let's tell everybody now.
Okay.
I'll do it. Today we were served with on a lawsuit for a trip and fall from back in April 2022. And Dave reminded me, it was a child that fell down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's in Z Drive if you want to take a look at it. Tony has it. Um,
It's unfortunate that there was a crack in the sidewalk
yeah,
because, kids fall down all the time, right?
yeah.
It's the nature of kids, but there was a crack on the sidewalk, and as Tony has said in the past, slip and fall is the new Social Security.
Yeah.
All right. I assume the sidewalk has been repaired,
That's the stretch that was repaired. Yeah,
right?
it's new, not repaired.
Stuart? All right.
Just a comment that I'm so happy to see the police in unmarked cars
Yeah,
stopping people, and why they always catch them in front of where I live, but they are there every day, 2, 3, 4 times, and I'm happy to see it. Is it stopping the speeders? No, but they're doing their job. That's it.
That's it. Joanne?
The only thing I have to report is we've got lots of nice fresh fiber sitting outside,
yes.
oiled up.
Piled up in front of our house.
The fiber is here for the new services that are going to be installed. And we're, as far as I know, on track. So that's really good because I know that it can take a long time to get that fiber to where they need it. So we're in good shape that way.
What are these new services that we're having fiber put in?
Telephone.
For the telephone, that new contract that we approved, Dave.
Yeah, to improve on the guest entry services. So
I gotcha.
not have everything down all the time.
Just one point on Stuart's question. Speed there because it's a long straightaway, unobstructed.
Yeah.
You might again request that the sheriff bring in the speedometer with the flashing light. It also tells you your speed.
Doesn't help.
Doesn't matter. I gotcha.
Tickets help.
It was not. It was there. They had 25 miles an hour speed limit for 2 weeks,
Right.
and virtually no one paid any attention to it.
Yeah. All right.
So it's like everything else; they don't pay attention to what the rules are.
There's one thing we don't know. How many are residents and how many are visitors?
Doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter.
Well, so if you're a visitor and you get nailed, you perhaps don't come in again. But if you're a resident, you're doing it day by day by day, and it's a habit.
But the issue is people are speeding. It doesn't matter whether they're residents or not. They're endangering everybody that's a resident in Century Village plus themselves. So, yes, Ed.
We've discussed this matter ad nauseum. Money talks and BS walks. I had recommended that we approach the sheriff and remunerate him or them to a greater extent, which at this point our contract goes back to the dark ages and they get no money. I was told by the captain that there is an auxiliary force to hire people cops who are not on duty.
Yeah.
As I checked it out with a former head of the New York chapter of that particular organization in New York, a hired off-duty policeman cannot issue a summons. And I haven't approached them as to we should check to see if that is here, but to keep talking about something that one day will come to fruition. It could very well be, since we get people suing everybody, that UCO could be sued for not taking the proper measures, while we have on record day after day, week after week, that there's this problem and we keep pushing it aside.
Anything else, Joanne?
That's it for me.
Okay. Thank you for recording the meeting, by the way. David Boaz, you're next.
Well, I have nothing new and exciting to report.
Okay. What I'm going to say, David, do you have anything that you would like to bring up before I speak?
The only thing that occurs to me is I don't notice much activity on the community TV channels. Is anybody actually doing anything there?
No, I don't think so, Dave.
I think we're working on,
You know, that's an awful valuable asset to just leave to rot. And I don't know what happened to Kitty and John, but maybe we need to reconstitute that committee a little bit. Because
We do have a plan B ready to go. We do have a plan B ready to go. The plan was that Joanne would be in charge of the community channel with 2 helpers, one of them being my wife, if you recall. That's waiting in the wings. But, you know, we can't put everything on Joanne. You know, she's on a project now. She's taking care of our phones. So I'm thinking when that's done, that could be her next project.
I'm really hoping over the summer to get sort of into it when there's not as many people around, so that by next year's season, we've really got a good, you know, product out there. And we're, you know, really using it and can advertise and, you know.
Might want to ping on Rod, see if there's any loopholes in the prohibition against advertising.
Well, that's a very big subject.
The other thing, Dave, is I'd like to see Carolyn in that loop as well. I'd like her to have to be able to get in and put in content herself,
Okay.
just as a communicator for the firm.
Yeah, just to post. I mean, it's not hard to post.
It's not hard.
You know, it's
But,
just having the access. I mean, because we run everything through here. Having it leave here to go somewhere where it may or may not be looked at doesn't make any sense.
No.
You know, so.
Anyway, when you're ready, Joanne.
Yeah,
You know.
no, that's on my
some
list.
kind of fireside chat could be set up.
Yeah.
Where the officers would, you know, engage with little encyclicals and take telephone calls. I don't know.
Be interested.
A little brainstorming, but to have 3 full operating video channels and doing nothing with them is really, you know, it's not good.
My personal interest in it is when hurricane season comes and I need to get information out quickly.
Exactly.
We have the credentials. We no longer have to rely on anybody else. So,
All right.
Sure.
That's it.
all right. For those of you that were not at the operations meeting the other day, it was brought to light that there are a substantial amount of potential claims being turned into WPRF. Slips, falls, people using the facility and getting hurt, et cetera, et cetera. Not too many could come to fruition. Some people just give up. Some people just want medical. But there are many, many pieces of paper being presented to WPRF on this matter. I made a suggestion, since they have certain criteria, if you want to use the wood carving shop or you sign a hold harmless clause. I made a suggestion that if you want to play pickleball, you want to play tennis, you want to play handball, you want to play shuffleboard, that anybody that uses the courts sign a hold harmless clause. They were very receptive of it, and they were going to talk to their legal department. Now, this precludes, if there's a crack in the cement and you trip and fall, and you think that you got hurt because there's a defect in the workmanship or the court, that's one thing. But if you go and you play tennis and you got a bad ankle and you fall down and you break your leg, you shouldn't be able to sue. And they're going to be looking into that, to expand, like to go on to the sailboats, to go to the different facilities that they use. You have to hold a hold harmless clause. But the people that go use the gym equipment, the people that the pickleball, handball courts, all of that, they don't sign anything.
Oh, the gym you do. I had to sign my life away. Just recently.
Okay. Well, I know that they're working. Like I said,
Yeah, no.
I brought it up, and last week I was told, well, they're going to sue anyway. This week they said it's a good idea. We're going to talk to legal, and we're going to see how we can implement it. So since we didn't have that many people there, I figured I would share that with everybody.
I don't know if you could get away with it legally, but a rule that over a certain age you need a doctor's certification that you can engage in these activities. I just don't know what the legalities of all that are.
Well, this came to light about 4 or 5 months ago when I was talking to one of the guards at the clubhouse, that they get sometimes as many as 10 or 12 a week, people getting hurt on the new gym equipment or by the pools or by doing this or doing that. And when I discussed it with Eva, it was like, well, it's really not that bad. That was a couple of months ago. Now they're actually bringing to light that there are a substantial amount of people that are looking for that extra cash. And it was also brought up that years ago it was $10,000. Now they're starting at $100,000.
Yeah.
So
this is in a category of law, I think, a term attractive nuisance doctrine. So here comes your 90-year-old, sees all that bright, shiny equipment in the gym and thinks he's 19 again. And suddenly he's on the way to the emergency room.
well, I just want to bring it up that they said they would work on it. Ed, okay, you're up.
I want to comment on that. I think what David said is you could have all the rules in the world, you still could get sued. But are we responsible if WPRF's equipment is not in good order and there's a suit and they have to pay?
Yes.
We're responsible.
Of course we are. Who pays for their insurance?
Well, that's a very good question.
We're responsible. And the biggest problem is now that the people that have been going to the gym, we paid to replace most of the equipment in there, and the older people don't know how to use it, or it works much better than the old equipment, and they're falling down and getting hurt. But ultimately, we have to pay for the insurance, so we're paying for it.
Yeah.
So those rules would be proposed and enforced by WPR?
Yes. Yeah.
That's good.
Like anybody could sue, but and what I precluded it by saying, if there's a crack in the tennis court where a person could trip and fall, but if the tennis court is completely perfect and the person just falls down for no reason and they have a hold harmless clause, it would give us it would stop people from just saying, well, I know that I could sue them and make some money.
Yeah.
They would have to think twice. Do you want to give your financial report, Ed? Treasurer's report?
Yes, I do, but I was going to defer to our editor-in-chief.
Well, she gets her own time. So
My own time is very quick. You'll have a paper this weekend. That's it for me. Tell Hose B it'll be here tomorrow, which you already
He
did.
did.
Okay.
In his own language.
In his own language.
All right, Ed, you're up.
Yes, and I'm really physically up. First of all, I'd like to say I'm very disappointed that the executive board has been canceled. especially after the vibrant meeting of the Finance Committee yesterday, where I was asked to present the ability to buy CDs, and the position of the officers was I had to get the officers' approval, the delegate assembly, and the executive board. So, and as you all know, I objected, and I have an email which I will read and like to go into the minutes from the chair of our advisory committee. And it starts off, I'd like to listen to the officers' meeting, so Zoom. And that's another matter that came up. It says, Article 8, officers. 3, treasurer. The treasurer shall keep a full and correct account of all cash receipts and disbursements, and deposit all funds in banks or financial institutions in the name of and to the credit of the organization, which I believe they meant UCO, not my personal account. All such deposits must be secured by the United States government or in a bank as a certificate of deposit. 4 observations preceding purchases. The bylaw specifically that the treasurer shall deposit all funds in banks or financial institutions. All such deposits must be secured by the United States government or in a bank as certificates of deposit. The bylaws contain no other requirement or process for the purchase of certificates of deposit. Nonetheless, to answer concerns,
Ed, what are you reading?
I am reading, and
What handles
that one, I want to go into the minutes, and I'll give you a hard copy. Nevertheless, to answer concerns raised and voiced by the purchase of CDs, I suggest a 3-step process similar to the office similar to that bylaws amendment, attaining the advice and consent of officers and committee, executive committee, and the delegate assembly. Regarding one concern, the need for emergency funds, the penalty for early emergency needs are within a 3-month period if for an early withdrawal. Therefore, in the 3 months interest, therefore, after the time, the principal plus any additional interest will be immediately available. And I want to expound on those who didn't attend yesterday's meeting that we had a guest speaker from Merrill Lynch. And why Merrill Lynch? Because Bank of America, which is the bank, owns Merrill Lynch, and in no other bank in the United States can you place more than $250,000 at one time and have FDIC approval. What was brought out was that Bank of America, which is one of the largest banks in the country, maybe even in the world, has an agreement, which we have a copy of, that they can place up to $50 million for one depositor. And that's a very practical solution, because otherwise, for $5 million, you'd have to get 20 banks, probably more. The total fee for handling this for 1 year is a mighty $300. It will save undoubtedly a tremendous amount of bookkeeping. And it was asked who owns title, and UCO owns title. So if any one of those two institutions should fail, the money is ours. I suggest, and at that meeting, for those who were there, I gave a written description of our plan, and many of you were, and ultimately I'll make that available. But going forward, I suggest that that particular document, which was requested, be printed or emailed to the 2,000 plus emails that Mr. Israel has. So the idea of the delegates not knowing what's happening will be widespread. The other thing, of course, is I'm going right now to ask that I re-invite David from Merrill Lynch to have a talk at the delegate assembly, because right now it appears what was asked for has just been killed by canceling the executive board. And I find that not too good. So that basically is what I have to say. It's my object to have our delegates and all the people understand what a CD is, and moving aside what's written in the bylaws, which should then be clarified when the advisory committee commences. So I know that David got my email, and many of you got my email, and I hope that this will prove to be as transparent as possible for the owners of Century Village, not just the officers, not just the executive board, but everybody, including the delegates. On one quick other matter, I questioned our secretary, who's doing a wonderful job. What was the password for a Zoom meeting of the officers committee? I was informed that the chair is the only one who could authorize that. And I replied very does that mean only David will be accommodated? And a while after that, she sent me an email. If I wanted to be accommodated, she could arrange it, which means she obviously got that approval from David. And my response is, I don't want special treatment. I want everybody in the village to have transparently. And it isn't, they don't understand, I understand. I could tell you at the last delegate assembly, a gentleman, I think his name was Mike, said, what are you waiting for? I got $1.7 million in CDs with Merrill Lynch. So there are some people who understand what CDs are, but in that regard, I want everybody, some of the questions that were raised yesterday, I felt were out of line, made no sense. $300 for a year to handle the account. To me, that doesn't make sense. And that's what I have to say. I wish everybody a good and healthy year. Because yesterday was also Independence Day for the state of Israel.
Dave, you have something you want to say?
I think that Ed has brought this matter before us some time ago. My only thought is one of the touchiest things you can start playing with are other people's money. I'm not saying this is inherently a bad idea,
Right.
but I think it's a slippery slope. And I think you want to be very careful and make sure that all the players understand the risks. I know your statement about stability is good, but we've seen banks go down in flames. The North American Bank went down. The Israeli bank went down. Nothing is absolutely bulletproof.
Well,
I don't
investment
think.
in gold is pretty bulletproof.
I don't think UCO is fundamentally in business to get into schemes of speculation, and the bottom line is that's what this is. I don't think we're chartered to speculate with other people's money, and I've had concerns over this proposal from the beginning. Having said that, I'm one vote, so it's kind of up to you all to make up your mind. But the delegates ultimately really have to understand what you've got in mind. I think our people, by and large, do understand what a CD is. CDs are very major investment vehicle for our people. But when you start doing it with other people's money, I think it gets tricky. I'm sure Merrill Lynch would love to have our $5 million or whatever it turns out to be. Why not? Okay, that's all. That's all I got to say about it.
David, in the past, when you objected, it was, and I was questioned, why has this taken so long? It was because at the time, we were getting next to zero interest on banks, and Treasury bills was giving us about 3%. At that point, you brought out that 127 years that the Treasury was in business, there was a slight defalcation, not defalcation, no one saw, a default to small investors, which were then made up. However, I do feel that our people, whether they are delegates or not, are very familiar, and ultimately it should go to them. And we did have a vote, and the overwhelming agreement at that time was to buy Treasury bills, but according to our current bylaws, it's not just more than 50%, it's more than 50% of those in the room. And I would say if there were no CZs, which are guaranteed by the FDIC, which is in the pamphlet that I held out, the Treasury itself is not the first primary guarantor of the CDs, because the FDIC collects fees, and those fees are used to pay any default on the CDs. I do think it behooves us to let those who ultimately vote on it get as much information as possible. And I'm suggesting 2 or 3 things. The pamphlet that is 15 pages that was handed out could be duplicated and included in the delegate assembly. It could be distributed in your long email list. And I think upon that, it would satisfy the due diligence of UCO, because you couldn't do anything more than have a standing vote at the delegate assembly.
On one other issue, this thing about Zoom meetings, Carolyn never brought this up with me. I mean, I don't see any technical reason why any officer, for whatever reason, who wants to attend these meetings by Zoom can't do so.
And David, can I just, I'm the one that brought the whole subject up. My sort of personal feeling is that each chairperson dictates who to invite to a Zoom meeting. If you allow the general public to always be involved, you cannot manage these meetings.
Right.
You can't open Zoom meetings up to the world. You have to have each chairperson be responsible. And
All I said was the officers.
yeah, and exactly. And that's why Ed got a invitation today to attend today's meeting as an officer, as any other, once the chairperson, and I knew that you would want to attend, so I just assumed that you and Ed would get invitations, and the rest of us were here. As far as anything beyond that, it's always the chairperson, because I've done this. I do it for Tony quite regularly, include other people. But it's got to be the chairperson legislating who will be included in a Zoom meeting. It cannot keep going out to the public, because right now our open meeting has extra security that needs to be taken, because that has gotten out too wide. So I'm just saying that we have to be careful how we legislate the Zoom meetings, because you start exposing yourself in a public forum too much that, you know, is no one's business but ours.
I certainly agree that to attempt to invite thousands of people to the officers' meeting via Zoom would result in uncontrollable.
And it only takes one email account getting into the wrong hands. They can blast it out over social media. Your cam report goes out on Nextdoor, which goes to thousands of people.
Exactly. And if you notice that the tenor of my reports, which were originally my report to Dave, my direct report, from there, Dave chose to give it out to all the officers. And then from then he decided to give it to the community.
Right.
And then of course the community decided to bring it out to
the world,
Facebook and Nextdoor. Well, I'm cognizant of that.
Right.
I know that
and that's controllable.
And that's controllable.
But if you put a Zoom credential
correct
in that particular report,
right,
we could never control who's coming in, and you would never have.
A good example would be today you sent out Carolyn sent the Zoom link out to the officers, those who needed to or wanted to come in remotely. Patricia,
and this is a closed meeting. No one has this link.
But it's a gentleman's agreement among us that
we don't share that.
Dave is not going to put it on that link on his bulk email list.
Exactly.
Ed Grossman has an extensive bulk email list. If we were to find that email list went on those bulks, we would have to decide maybe not to do
Ed
this.
did share the finance committee, and as the finance chair,
he's a chair.
You have every right to do that.
He can give it to China if he wants.
Go ahead. But you're exposing our Zoom account to a large population that we have no control over. So,
and also let's keep in mind that this recording of this meeting is a corporation record.
Yes. Yeah.
So something we should be aware of.
Yeah. So that's all I want to say about that.
Go ahead, Ed.
As far as I know, at least in general business, and I think throughout the United States, the only two meetings that can be closed is an interview with don't shake your head, a prospective candidate, and a meeting with your lawyer.
That's condominium.
This is not a closed meeting. This is not a closed meeting. Anyone can come here and attend.
Good answer. However, the demographics of Century Village has changed dramatically, and a good portion of Century Village is what you call snowbird. I understand, and I could be corrected, that the UCO paper is no longer mailed out. That's one. And number two, this is not a closed meeting, and you have a significant amount of people who want to be informed and are entitled to be. I would like you to show me where this is a closed meeting.
It's not.
What are we afraid of?
It's not a closed meeting. Why are you saying it is a closed meeting?
It's closed because you're limited to people who are
No,
here.
we're not. The door's open.
Yes, would you fly in 500 people?
And Ed, 2 hours from now, this meeting is going to be on YouTube.
Right.
Listen, not everybody is on YouTube. Lots more people have email, and lots more people would like to participate.
And that's fine. And the chairman of each committee can request additional credentials for those who want to Zoom in. This is David's meeting. He, or sometimes he designates for Fausto to run his meeting, can ask me to give him a Zoom credential, and I'll be glad to. But I'm not going to do it for anyone other than the chairperson, as I did yesterday for your meeting.
I hear you. I totally disagree, but I do not want to extend this conversation
Okay.
beyond reasonableness. And I appreciate your putting it on. And I will definitely make sure that the entire delegate assembly will know your position.
Good.
Perfect.
All right.
That's
All
the
right.
place for it.
I would, Ed, I would like to go back to address the original issue that you have. As I expressed to you yesterday, there's a procedure. The procedure is your presentation for CDs, T-bills, whatever you want to do, has to go to the officers first. From the officers, I'm sure there would be questions that the officers have that we would give you time to get answers to, and then you could present it to the executive board, who I'm sure would have questions, before they would go in front of the delegate assembly. You keep choosing to change the steps that need to be followed. No more than 10 minutes ago, you said, I want to bring the guy from Merrill Lynch to talk to the delegates.
Right.
The board, executive board hasn't voted on it, and neither have the officers. And there's officers that have questions on the presentation that you gave yesterday that have more questions than answers. Okay, and I don't think there's anybody in this room that is against what you want to do, but there are questions that we need to be able to address and be able to question you, Mr. Dave, whoever the gentleman, whoever they are, that we feel that we need to have a clear conscience on what we're doing. And to reiterate what David said, it is not our money. We are stewards of the people's money. And this is why we're here. And this is why we have a ladder.
I appreciate your response. I refer you to the written remarks of the chair of the advisory committee, and I am for total exposure. However, in order to do what you want to do, it should be rewritten in the bylaws. There is nothing in the bylaws.
I have no objection. When you can, take the time, the 2, 3, 6 months, have Richard rewrite the bylaws, have them approved, and we'll follow them. Right now, we need to follow whatever we have in writing here.
Where? Show me the writing.
In writing, you as the treasurer have the right to bring it to the offices and say, I want to make an investment. And we, as stewards of presidents, vice president of Century Village, have the right to ask you questions on what are you going to do, how are you going to do with this money, okay? If you can convince us that you've got the right thing, we'll be more than happy to push it through to the executive board, and we'll be on your side and say, listen, this is a terrific idea. Let's go through with it, and let's bring it up to the delegates who have the final word. You keep saying that it's you, and you're only part of the equation, just like the officers are part of the equation, okay? I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. Yesterday, the gentleman said he's going to take $5 million, and his company is only going to take $300.
For a year.
Okay. Now,
For a year.
you as a business person, having dealt in business, can you do business with $300 a year? or what kind of service as an accountant, what kind of service would you give to a business that if they only paid you $300 a year?
Well,
Let me question. I'm saying this is my question.
and
Okay.
I have a good
Okay.
answer.
I don't want to know your answer. These are the questions that I have. Okay. That's number one. Number two, are you aware that the Bank of America and Wells Fargo Bank have hundreds of lawsuits going on right now?
Do you?
Are you the yes or no? I'm just asking.
I wouldn't be surprised. However, I would assume they're either self-insured, and if you look at the balance sheet, see how many billion that they have, not million, but in equity. That's one. Two, what you're expounding is not in writing. Three,
What do you mean? What is not in writing?
Your procedure. Show me where it's in writing and I'll agree.
This is the procedure that we've been following for 8 years that I'm in here.
Well,
We've always had this procedure.
I would tend to doubt. I was here for more than 8 years, but I was certainly here when Mr. Ed Black took everything out.
Ed, don't go there.
I am going there.
Ed, please, don't go there.
No, it's true. I'm not afraid of saying the truth. And it was emptied without any delegate approval.
Okay, I'm going to tell
That
you.
does not make it right.
Doesn't make it
It
wrong.
also didn't
No,
happen.
no,
also
no,
didn't
no.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Israel has left the.
He'll be back.
He'll be.
But Ed, the point I'm trying to make to you is that when Ed and David signed a contract to repave the road, those $5 million were part of a budget to redo the roads. They didn't go to the bank and take $5 million out of our savings account and say, we're going to spend it for that. It was earmarked for doing the roads. Was the procedure correct? I can't tell you if it was or it wasn't. The procedure that I think was not correct, when you decided personally and a group of your friends to contact Palm Beach County and say the parking spaces aren't the right side,
We have no guest spot.
but
And you had,
All right, listen,
I'm just saying.
Guys, I want to cut in a minute.
But Ed,
Is this belong in this meeting?
No.
This is a
well,
business meeting.
it does because
We're
you're bringing up a dead
We're
person.
talking about bullshit that happened 12 years ago.
I understand that.
All right, we all got other places to be. This is silly now. Let's stick to our agenda.
It is.
well, I
this
would
is the
go ahead,
agenda.
say, but he missed an interesting part. You say don't say it. I have no problem saying what I feel and
Okay.
believe is right.
Good.
However, you have an advisory chair, and that advisory chair has both times, and this is the third time, posted to Mr. Israel's blog what he feels, okay? So therefore, you could go your merry way, but I believe, according to our bylaws, that at the delegate assembly, at the appropriate time, this could be brought to the delegate assembly without going to any three chairs. We've tried it 3 times. 2 times, whoever was chairing the meeting pushed the meeting so far out that we didn't have a quorum. And that one meeting clearly says, how many people are here? How many people are here? Oh, we no longer have a quorum. Well, I don't think that's good business, and I don't think it's good politics. I am not talking just for myself. The vote of the delegate assembly showed numerically where the thing was, and I think you may or may not follow it. You may or may not agree with it. It's up to you. But I put down everything that I was asked personally by not only Richard, but several other people. And I had one gentleman who came over to me. I believe his name is Mike. He talks to you all the time, he told me. And you told him that it's because of me that it doesn't go through. And I take terrible exception to that, and I will bring it up at the delegate assembly.
That's here.
So as far as I'm concerned, I'm done.
I mean, this isn't even a meeting anymore. That's bullshit.
It's not bullshit. It's very important, Donald. It's important to me. It is important to the people who,
You are taking what someone said as gospel, and we're telling you that is bullshit.
Well, I'll have him come to the next meeting. I'll see him at the delegate.
Right. I want to know where this guy walks around the village and gets all this information to pass on to you.
Well, that's a good question.
And so, you know,
If
hey,
he's still here.
I can give you statistics to prove anything I want to prove, and it's all crap. But that's not the point.
I
The
don't
point
do
is, no, let
I
me
could
finish.
sit back and
Let me
relax
finish.
and just be a mummy.
Let me finish. There is a process by which what you want to do has to follow. It
Not
has
according
to, no. I
Not
don't care what's,
according-
are you going to let me talk, or you want to, I'll stop. Go ahead, say whatever you want. And it reaches a point where you've said the same thing so often that no one pays attention anymore.
Who paid attention to you regarding the traffic? You want to play games? I'm not here to play games. I got other things.
Let's get control of the meeting. I'll let
You know what you just did? It's such a childish
I'm
statement.
childish.
Stuart, yeah, Ed, you're out of order. Is there we have any more ongoing business? Do we have any new business to bring up? I thought you had something to bring up, Ed.
What?
I don't know. You sent out an email that you wanted to do something. I'm asking you, do you want to?
I just did it.
This morning you asked for a closed session.
Oh,
I called you up and you said it was to.
I sent you, I tried to send everybody, but I said Donald, and Donald said he would disperse it. I have another candidate for the finance committee.
Can we continue to record?
That really is private business.
Before you mention the person's name, does anybody have a problem that Ed discussed bringing on? Should we shut the recording down?
Because when we voted last time, we were not.
I'm well aware of it, but I'm just trying to keep Ed.
And this isn't really a controversial,
It's not.
Pointing
To my
out
mind.
that we did not do it with the last two candidates, so.
Okay.
If you're going to be consistent, you have to turn.
Right. My suggestion, you stop the recording.
all right.
Let him finish.
Tell me what-
Only for previous protocol that when the other three candidates were brought up, we shut the recording down.
We went into executive session at the end of the meeting.
Right. But I just want to make sure that David can still hear what's going
Oh,
on.
yeah, no.
We're just shutting down the recording, David.
Are we going to
If
end?
you're shutting it down locally, fine, but if you're shutting it down on Zoom, it may chop me out.
No,
No.
I figured out how not to do that.
Okay.
We're learning it.
Thank you. All right. I'll go back. Do we have any new business? Hearing none, we'll go to any open discussion. Anybody want to bring anything up, discuss anything?
I'd just like to enter a collateral string of thoughts on some of Ed's concerns about investment. I recall, maybe it was a Dorothy Tetro thing, where we put quite a bit of money into very carefully laddering CDs across the whole country, so that in case we had an emergency.
That we don't have to spread it out across the country. And has been said, it's ours. It's nobody else's.
Let's sharpen it up. Ed, you're proposing to take $5 million out of our current accounts and transfer them into new accounts at Bank of America.
One account, not new, one.
Okay, a single account.
A single account which will accommodate the $5 million.
That's your motion.
That's my
Motion is
motion.
to invest $5 million in CDs with,
Is that correct, Ed?
No.
In
And-
CDs?
Mhm.
And CD,
Yeah, 20 of them,
Bank of America.
no one.
20 of them,
Look, you.
250 FDIC each.
20 different
20
CDs.
different.
Right.
In the
Different
same
institutions.
institution.
Yes.
And yes,
Well, it's Ed's motion.
it's Ed's motion. Do I have a second on that motion?
Yeah, I'll second it so that we can get a vote.
Okay. All right, we're gonna start with, Joanne.
No.
Yeah, I'll do an X.
Yeah.
David Boaz,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Dominic,
No,
good. Ed Grossman,
I defer to wait for Mr. Israel to vote.
but you gotta vote. It's either yes, no, or abstain. One at a time.
After many
Dave
times
votes-
you say,
Barry votes last.
He's the last person to vote.
the answer is
Yes. So Grossman is a yes, a no. David, how do you vote?
Ed was an abstain?
No.
No, he
I
voted yes.
Huh?
He voted yes with coaxing.
Oh, okay. No, I vote no.
Okay. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 no's, and you have 1, 2, 3 yeses. Motion does not carry.
Okay, that's the end of that.
And you
No.
have one absent,
yeah.
right?
Who's
One
ab-
absent, correct?
Yes.
One's absent.
Any other new business? We have anything to discuss before I call for an adjournment? Somebody make a motion to adjourn?
I do.
Thank you, Stuart. Who seconds
Dominic.
Dominic seconds the motion?
Yeah.
To adjourn?
Thank you, everyone.
Closing at 1:12.